We see the ALP on 51 seats with almost 13% of the vote counted, as I mentioned. The Liberal National Party coalition on 49 seats, the Greens with no seats, and independents anticipating to have 3 seats, the same 3 seats that they had in the last parliament. If we factor in also the seats likely, that means the seats that are generally very safely held by one party or the other. We would anticipate that the Labor Party has 63, the Coalition 57, the Greens none, and the Independents remain on 3. Our main panel's already been going through some of the key seats in Queensland and New South Wales where there's clearly a swing on to the coalition. The question is, of course, how large it is. If we can take a look at some of the seats elsewhere on the eastern seaboard, the contest in Tasmania is in the northern marginal seats. The seat of Bass, for example, where the sitting member Jodie Campbell is retiring, it looks like there's going to be a 4.5% swing to the Labor Party, to the man who's succeeding her, Jeff Lyons. So with about a third of the vote counted in Bass, it looks like the Labor Party will be holding on to that seat. Braddon is another marginal Labor-held seat in Tasmania, which has been held by Sid Sidebottom for the past term of the Parliament. There's a 5% swing to the Labor Party there, again with about a third of the vote counted in Braddon, so Sid Sidebottom would be holding on to that for Labor. If we cross the Bass Strait and we head into Victoria, we'll take a look at the seat of Corangamite, which has been one of the most hotly contested seats in this election. It is too close to call at the moment. It's in doubt for Labor. About 30% counted. There's a tiny swing to the Liberal Party at this stage, to Sarah Henderson, who's a former lawyer and journalist, but it's really too close to call. But that would be something that would be worrying Labor. It's one of those seats that both parties want to have. So, Kerry, Labor holding solid in Tasmania, which they'd be happy with, but as I say, those early figures in Corangamite wouldn't be quite so encouraging for the ALP.
Well, this could get down to 1 or 2 seats tonight. We could even end up sweating on Western Australia. Anthony Green, what are you saying?
Well, I'm saying that at this stage, the Labor Party's definitely lost 6 seats, but only gained 1 in McEwen. They're also ahead in Latrobe. But there's another dozen or so seats where the Labor Party is currently trailing. And what's become interesting is the seats which we weren't expecting to see there. Labor is currently behind in Banks. They're currently behind in Greenway, and they're currently behind in Brisbane. And I don't think there's seats that people particularly had factored in as coalition wins.
Certainly not Banks.
No, Brisbane was on our list.
Watch list.
On our watch list. Yeah. Look, the extent of the swing in Brisbane and in Queensland and New South Wales is obviously worrying. Corangamite's too tight for comfort. Anthony's reference to Western Australia, I know you'll allow me to do this. It's only 5:30 in the West. In the West, people who haven't voted should think about the risk of Tony Abbott and go and vote Labor.
Well, we'll have to give Nick a 10-second response.
Well, the Western Australians should think very seriously about the mining tax which this government's about to impose on them and damage the Western Australian economy. They ought to think about that very carefully.
Righto, that'll be enough of the campaigning now.
Kerry, there's very early figures in South Australia. They are small, but they do show, as I had confidently predicted, a small swing to us in Sturt and a small swing against us in Boothby, but not enough to lose Boothby. So I think there will be a status quo result in South Australia, which in a sense is bad news for Labor. They really need to pick up a seat in South Australia, I think, if they're to be confident of retaining government.
I think it's probably a good time to make another point. Corangamite, for example, neck and neck, but we know from the Electoral Commission close of play yesterday there were nearly 20,000 pre and postal votes, so about 10,000 pre-polls and 8,000 postal votes. So
who are they going to vote?
So in Corangamite, as in I suspect a number of others, what we know tonight won't be enough.
But traditionally in the past, those pre-polls and postals have, I know it can vary, but they by and large.
Well, I think one of the features of this campaign is the very substantial increase in pre-poll and postal votes. That I think is one of the reasons I think we may not be able to call it tonight, because there's so many outstanding.
And I don't want to be pessimistic, but the distribution of postal votes came at probably the worst moment in the campaign for us.
Making excuses already, Stephen.
Well, it's a fact. It came after the terrible second week, the disastrous second week. The postal votes were distributed then, but that may well be balanced.
I'll come back later and get you to tell us exactly what you regarded as your disasters. But I'm going to continue the seat run and look at the seat of Robertson in New South Wales. This held by Labor, but the sitting member, as most people would know, Belinda Neal, has made a departure. And it's on a very fine margin of 0.1%. This is the New South Wales Central Coast. We've got 14% counted.
And we've got a preference counting quite a number of booths here. There's 50 booths in this electorate. So on the numbers we're seeing at the moment, we'll see a lot of counting to come in this electorate. Darren Jamieson ahead there on the first preference votes. There's quite a few votes from down around Pearl Bay, Tonga, Mount White, Mooney. 0.2% swing to the Liberal Party, which puts the Liberal Party just a smidgen ahead. So that seat remains in doubt. We don't know whether Deborah O'Neill or Darren Jamieson will be the next member for Robertson.
OK, Werriwa in Sydney's outer southwest. Many years ago, this was Gough Whitlam's seat. 17% of the vote counted. It's held, let me explain. I think we better let you explain this one, Anthony.
The seat of Lowe was abolished and John Murphy's contested Reid, which was held by Laurie Ferguson. Laurie Ferguson's contesting Werriwa, while the member for Werriwa, Chris Hayes, is contesting Fowler, where Julia Irwin is retiring. Musical chairs. Laurie Ferguson will go on to win Werriwa from the Liberal Party's Sam Ascaros. Big vote there for the Greens. There's only 3 candidates, which is an unusually small number in an electorate like this, and we're seeing a swing of 7% to the Liberal Party. And if that's going on in Western Sydney, then there's a number of other seats where the Labor Party will be very concerned.
OK, the seat of Patterson in the New South Wales Hunter region. This is one where Labor constantly tries and more often than not fails to get back. Bob Baldwin has held this since 2001. He's on a margin of only 0.6%. Nearly 40% of the vote counted, and there's a swing to him.
No problem here for Bob Baldwin. There was talk, the Prime Minister made a quick visit up there the other day. This stage, we've got a substantial counting in this electorate, and Bob Baldwin, 49% on the first preference votes. When you factor in the booths that information is from, then Bob Baldwin goes on easily to win the electorate of Patterson. We've had a swing here of 4.4% to the Liberal Party, and Bob Baldwin, we will, in the moment, declare as the winner.
OK, we might also now take a look at the seat of Dobell. This was a seat that was in play for Labor. Craig Thompson is the member. Took it over at the last election on a margin of 3.9%. 29% of the vote counted.
This stage, there's not a lot happening in this electorate in terms of the swing we've seen in other seats. Craig Thompson is well ahead on the first preference votes. We've got preference counts in 18 of the 59 booths in this electorate. And on the figures we're seeing, there's a 0.7% swing to Labor, and Craig Thompson will easily retain Dobell.
OK, the seat of Page on the New South Wales North Coast. Labor took this at the last election, Janelle Saffin. With a margin of 2.4%, you've got nearly 32% of the vote counted, and a slight swing to Labor.
Last time we were talking about Cowper, where there was a substantial swing to the Nationals. Right next door in Page, probably the most rural of the North Coast electorates, Janelle Saffin for the Labor Party, who won it last time. She will easily win that seat. She's ahead on the first preference votes at this stage. We're factoring in preference counts in half the booths at this stage, and there's a 0.8% swing to Labor, so Janelle Saffin will hold on to Page for the Labor Party. OK, now we're going to jump back to Queensland and the seat of Bowman, because this seat was just about the most marginal Liberal seat, held by Andrew Laming since 2004, but this has had a big swing. Yes, we've seen here Andrew Laming's well ahead there on the first preferences from Jenny Peters. The Greens with 9.9% there. Andrew Laming's leading on the first preference votes with a third of the first preference booths counted. When we look at the next graphic, which compares the preference counts we have in electorates, what we see is a swing of 8.9%, a complete reversal of the swing at the last election. And Andrew Laming, after his narrow squeak by only less than 200 votes last time, will be returned as the member for Bowman.
And Andrew Laming is very keen to claim victory, standing by with his wife, Alicia. Andrew Laming, you must be feeling a lot better than you did at this time in the last election. Understatement of the year.
Well, Kerry, no, you're always confident. Even 3 years ago we were, but that margin was 64 votes. It'll be a little larger tonight, thanks to an amazing campaign by Tony Abbott nationwide. And the LNP is here to stay, Kerry. This has been a fantastic result in my home state of Queensland.
So what do you isolate as, say, the 1 or 2 standout issues that have done this for you?
Well, look, these are nationwide issues. Everyone of your viewers will know those. We've got a massive fishing vote down here, and I think, you know, everyone knows you just utter the words Anna Bligh in Queensland and people do everything they can to vote for the other party.
So could you see the mood change in Queensland as the campaign progressed? Were there any pivotal moments in the campaign for you?
It's been extremely close. Each of the public debates were key moments. But I'd have to say, Tony Abbott's 36 hours, you know, he is an ultra marathoner, and he's shown right down to the wire that he's going to go for every possible Liberal coalition vote that he can, and it's been a fantastic finish to the campaign, Kerry. We set some basic objectives here. We wanted to make it a really confident win. We've used social media and e-media, you know, Facebook, YouTube, everything to reach out to younger voters and keep them engaged, and I think the result will show that tonight.
OK, well, Andrew Laming, congratulations and thanks for taking the time to talk with us.
Great, Kerry.
Kerry.
Sorry, I'm going to cross to Tony Jones in just a second, but Nick Minchin's got something to tell us.
I think Lindsay's worth looking at. There's nearly 20% counted in that classic Western Sydney seat, a seat that we need over 6% to win, and is showing a 7.7% swing to the Liberal Party, which would be an extraordinary gain in a fascinating seat. And just shows you the extent of the problem that Labor has in Western Sydney, and that would be a remarkable gain if we can pick that up.
And also the Liberals are still ahead in Greenway, and to avoid Daryl Mallam claiming that the ABC has lost all respect again, I'd just like to say that Daryl has pulled ahead again in Banks, but it's still a substantial swing in his electorate.
OK, so that's just to come back to that. I mean, that's all. Even though it's a bigger swing, on paper it looked the toughest seat to win than others.
Well, that's right. It was sort of outside the target range.
But by the same token, it was always one that you were strongly hoping to get back.
Yeah, because there are seats like Page which have a lesser swing required, but we felt probably more likely to stay.
There was a bit of a dirty tricks aspect last time, which I think might have added
well,
those to
that's
Labor.
true too, yeah.
But on the other side, Nick, the Labor Party has now pulled ahead in Aston, in Victoria.
Right? On what?
I've got preference counts in 6 booths.
Yeah,
it's not decided yet.
Yep.
But
you're right, Victoria could decide this election.
I've got Aston very close.
Yep.
And we've got Lindsay and Greenway were always on our watch list. Lindsay, good local member, but you saw the 25+% by-election swing at the state level. But Bradbury's done very well, but it's neck and neck. But that was always on our list, as was Greenway. OK,
now we're going to take a very quick look at Herbert in North Queensland, based around Townsville, because we have Ewan Jones, the Liberal National candidate, standing by. Now, we had a popular Liberal member, Peter Lindsay, retiring at this election. This is a very, very tight seat. And we've got 30.5% of the vote counted. Anthony?
And what we're seeing here, Tony Mooney, the former mayor, famously lost the Mundingburra by-election many years ago. He's behind Ewan Jones at 45.29% for the Greens, just under 5% there with Family First. We've got a preference count in 14 of the 44 booths, and we're seeing a swing of 1.8% to the Liberal Party, which, given its narrow margins, means the Liberal Party would technically win that seat back, even though they currently have a sitting member. So that marks down as a Liberal Party gain. OK, and we've got Ewan Jones standing by. Ewan Jones, what's your read of what's happening in Herbert tonight?
Kerry, this is my very first campaign, so I'm just having an absolute ball with this. I don't know what to read. Our campaign team is busy running around and getting the numbers, but just having an absolute wonderful time.
What was your sense through the course of the campaign while you were having a wonderful time? What struck you as the issues that were resonating in Herbert?
Cost of living and the mining tax was a big one. The cost of living across all levels and dealing with governments on all levels. But the mining tax was a very, very big issue here, and the business is still very, very worried about what may happen in the future. What about the defence vote? I think the defence vote, Townsville's a great garrison city, and the defence vote, we don't really know how it goes, but I think we've provided some good stuff with our promise that we will look after the DFRDB pensions. So we've come up with some good stuff for the defence, and we will look after the defence. So, I mean, what are your scrutineers telling you right now? Are they telling you that you're in for a long night, or that you're going to know fairly soon? I mean, it is, at this stage, it's actually looking very positive for you. Well, they're telling me it's very positive. We'd like to. Peter Lindsay's looking very, very worried, but a few other guys are patting me on the back and saying it's about time we opened a beer. But I don't know.
Well, you can open a beer, but don't have too many because we might come back to you.
Thank you very much.
Ewan Jones, thanks for that.